The conferencing industry has welcomed the state of the series of engagements under South Africa's G20 Presidency. The first meeting of the sherpas of the group of 20 kicked off in Johannesburg today. It marks the first major engagement since South Africa assumed its year-long presidency. The Southern African Association for the Conference Industry says large-scale events like the G20 have a considerable impact on the tourism industry. Top of the agenda will be building from the last three presidencies of the G20, which have all been under developing nations, Indonesia, India and Brazil. Events around the summit are expected to attract thousands of visitors to the country and drive infrastructure development. Meanwhile, International Relations Minister Ronald Lamola has encouraged delegates to enjoy their visit and explore various tourism opportunities that South Africa has to offer.
That you'll all enjoy today and the next days of your stay in our country. And all your other counterparts from your countries will also enjoy their stays in the various parts of our country, of our provinces, as they attend the working groups meetings and the experts meetings. And they will also enjoy our hospitality, our music, our culture. They will also see some of our beautiful sites here in Gauteng, Soweto, the cradle of humankind, and many other places here in Gauteng. Table Mountain in the Western Cape, Durban in KwaZulu-Natal, the Kruger National Park and the Northwest.
Let's bring in Elias Monage, who's the Black Business Council President, to expand on the conversation. A very good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time. I mean, we've just listened to Minister Ronald Lamola speaking about the tourism industry, how that will benefit from the number of delegates that are visiting the country. I mean, that in itself is a plus for the business sector, isn't it? Okay, we see, I think you may have yourself muted. Can you try and unmute?
Yeah, I'm saying it is, I think, a pleasure for us as a country to be hosting the G20, B20 for the first time in the African continent. And I think, indeed, we're looking at various opportunities for businesses in the next coming period.
More so as the first Sherpa meeting of the G20 is important for one traditionally, but it sets the agenda, the tone for the upcoming presidency and the critical conversations on some of the most vital issues. What are some of your expectations?
Let's first deal with the what I call it the administrative issues before we deal with the broader political and economic issues. Firstly, yes, as a country, we need then to sort our house in order. And when I'm saying as a country, we need to sort out our house in order is because the B20 need then to be resolved from business point of view, because equally, business will be hosting business organizations for this set of period in terms of the presidency, because it runs parallel. We have the G20 and the B20. The B20 is business, G20 is governments. And I'm saying from the business point of view, South Africa as the president of business in the G20, we need them to sort our house in order. That's the first thing that we need them to do. Sorting our house in order is when we deal with South Africa in its entirety in terms of business involvement and representation. And we are not seeing that now as things stand. And hence I'm saying these are administrative issues that need them to be sorted out, because we cannot have our colleagues from BUSA that have decided on their own accord to proceed with the arrangements, let alone identifying individuals that will play a particular role. We're supposed then to have a meeting of business formation so that we then agree in terms of the plan, the strategy, and various other things. That have never happened. Secondly, we cannot then appoint, they've appointed McKinsey, as you know, that McKinsey was involved in the corrupt activity for bribing government officials. And that matter even led to the Zondo Commission. And as a result of that, I think it will be remiss of our colleagues then to appoint a company that was involved in the corrupt activity or the Zondo Commission, and we then turn a blind eye, despite the fact that they've paid a fine for their involvement during that period. You might recall that that led to the 1064, the locomotives that went to the Guptas. And sure, we are then saying, from a business point of view, we need our hands to be cleaned. Hence, we cannot then just proceed as if it's business as usual. We need them to deal with the blacklisting of this company so that they cannot then be involved in a corrupt activity and a bribe activity, and then we proceed as if it's business as usual. We are then saying corruption must be eroded because in the absence of us dealing with corruption, you'll recall that corruption creates many other problems for our society, and therefore we need them to deal with these matters. We need them to root or uproot corruption to the core, because it then creates a problem. Now, coming back to the issue around identifying priorities, we cannot then talk about inclusive economy from business point of view if we then continue in perpetuating the legacy of excluding others. And I'm raising that point because government, they've identified their priorities for their chairmanship in the G20 in terms of fostering solidarity, reshaping the multilateral bodies. And I'm saying from business point of view, definitely we need them to relook at how then do we foster solidarity, how then do we deal with a range of issues around the global governance, the WTO that deals with World Trade Organizations, the financial institutions, and also the consolidation of the gains that the South, the global South and African continent have achieved to date, so that we don't start from scratch, but we need them to move from a better base in terms of the consolidation of those gains and improve on the gains that have been achieved to date, because rightly so, we are the third developing country that would be presiding over the B20, the G20. So we need them to look at those gains in terms of how then do we reform and deal with those institutions. And I think for us, we are confident when we see our government basically then forging ahead. I mean, a week ago, so they've just launched the working streams of their operations from the G20. And from business point of view, we need them to move with speed. But we cannot then move with speed if our colleagues from Busa, they think they own the monopoly over the B20. We need them to have this conversation. And we have called upon government.
What platform are you creating for that opportunity to take place, that conversation?
We have requested government to intervene, the presidency to intervene, because in an event where there is a dispute between business organizations, surely somebody must then address these issues. And then the reason why we are calling upon the presidency to intervene is because in business, we don't see things from the same. And our colleagues, they cannot then pretend and behave as if we agree on a number of things. We don't. We need them to address the question of inclusive economy. Now, you cannot then say to the people that have excluded people for the past years, they must then find a way, how are they going to include the ones that they've excluded deliberately so in the making of the economic stream. And therefore, we represent a particular interest and majority in the country, because we represent, we are the voice of the black formations in the country, both business and professionals. And we are also then calling upon, we're making a clarion call, even to other formations that are not part of any organization, to say we need them to bring them on board, so that this South Africa Business Inc. is not about BBC or Busa, but it's about the business constituency in the country coming together, putting platform, putting systems together, identifying people. We have done this thing during COVID when we dealt
And
with
that's
solidarity.
important, more
And
so,
we're not
as
arguing for
if you'll allow
something
me to interrupt you, Ntate Elias, it's important because South Africa's priorities on this platform include inclusive economic growth. And that in itself is a massive topic, especially at such a time in South Africa when the economy needs to grow and jobs need to be created.
That's precisely our point. We're basically saying you cannot then talk about inclusive economy, but at the heart of this thing, the people that have excluded others, they're the ones that they're on the driving seat. It doesn't make any sense at all. And that's the reason why we're basically saying, can we then have that discussions where we create a platform, we then bring all formations, we then agree, like we have done with solidarity. I mean, during the solidarity, we created specific work streams and specific platforms to deal with these issues. And I think there is nothing sinister that we are suggesting to our colleagues to say, can we then deal with these matters upfront?
Yeah.
And that's the reason why we're calling upon the presidency to intervene and assist in the resolution of these matters. And this country, we are rich in resolving disputes. We are rich in addressing and negotiating issues. And I think, again, we're still making a call to our colleagues to say, can they seriously reconsider these issues and then bring other people on board so that we can then have a
very quickly,
meeting of minds.
we are out of time. How did you end up not being on board? I mean, how did that happen?
I'm saying it happened because they decided to exclude all other formations. And there's a difference between receiving an invitation to say, I'm inviting to a meeting that I've decided on the agenda, the program, and who's coming to the meeting. Whereas if we're then saying, can we have a discussion around the B20? I mean, to this date, we have never received any program, any work stream, anything that is suggested, including even the process that led to the Brazil. I mean,
Okay, we are going to have to leave that conversation. Unfortunately, that line not too good towards the end. But thank you to Elias Monage, the Black Business Council president, for speaking about their perspective as black business.